Saludos desde la hermosa ciudad de San Cristóbal de las Casas, Chiapas, México. Mi nombre es Lorena Gaibor. Soy profesora en la Universidad de Denver, en la Escuela de Maestría de Trabajo Social. I lead our Latinx Social Work Certificate program.
We were a total of 13 students, 10 of us from the Graduate School of Social Work, and then 3 of us from the Corbell School of International Studies, which is also at the University of Denver.
So why Chiapas? We come here because this is a region full of rich history, rich culture, rich traditions, and the marriage of the indigenous communities and the local mestizo communities. There's just so much here to explore.
And the purpose of this course was to meet with communities and understand the struggles that they're going through, but also seeing and understanding the inspiring resistance that they are taking on to empower themselves and to fight against systems of oppression that are happening in the state, in the country, and then in the world as a whole.
This region has a lot of migration. That's another important element. A lot of my students will work with migrant populations in the United States, specifically, like I said, Latinx communities. And a lot of them are recent immigrants. Some have been around before the United States became the United States. But we come from Latin America, right? And so understanding some of the richness of the culture, as well as the reasons why people are often forced to migrate from their home.
I was very interested in the region due to being born in Puerto Rico, as well as being interested in the social movements that were occurring in Chiapas at the time.
I think for me, one of the most impactful parts of this trip to Chiapas was this word that we kept using over and over again, convivir. We're going to learn from each other, and we're going to pass time together, and we're going to celebrate together and enjoy together. And do life together. I think for me, the clearest example of that was when we went and visited El Frente Popular, the mining community down on the coast, and we spent a day of convivir with them, and they invited us to share their river with them because they had successfully managed to save this river from the horrible influence and use of mining companies.
We have partnered with a couple of communities and NGOs that have allowed us to dive deeper into dynamic kind of popular education, as they call it, work with their communities.
It was interesting to hear from the perspective of the Zapatistas and how they work to actually find justice for people who have had crimes committed against them. And they talked about how when there are two people and one person has committed a crime against another person, how they have to work together to come up with a solution. So the victim has to decide what works for them, and then the perpetrator also has to agree to that.
Some of the NGOs that we work with are incredibly clear and fantastic at delivering to us the reality that people live with here, and understanding through a very precise political analysis what the situation is globally.
The issues that this state has are universal. We're not the only ones that have issues with immigration and environmental issues, poverty issues, hunger issues. So that was really interesting to see.
What we work with our social work students to learn about in terms of power, privilege, and oppression, and understanding our positionality as social workers. How do we partner with communities to walk alongside them and not in this savior type modality that I think too often even the most well-intentioned workers can perpetuate that kind of power imbalance. Communities here are very clear that is not the kind of work that they do.
One of our fellow students asked how your identity and privilege affects the way in which you work when you are not a part of that community. Both David and Thomas shared the sentiment that recognizing your privilege and not letting it paralyze you is vital. The most important thing is that you give those who are underrepresented a voice.
Through tremendous adversity, there is creativity. And that is what we come to learn about from folks here, to be inspired and to hopefully take some of that back with us in terms of what kind of a better world can we work on creating back home, to create a world that's more equitable, where social justice is not just a phrase that we throw around, but that we start to live into those values.